I'm not normally one to jump on a trend and do videos that inevitably a bunch of other creators are going to do. I haven't even really done a video like this up to this point, but I've just been thinking so much about the N64 online service and getting myself all really excited and hyped up. So I thought it would be fun to talk about a few of the games that I'd like to see that haven't been confirmed yet. The N64 is probably the system that defined my childhood the most, so it cannot be understated just how important it is to me that these games are coming to the Switch. This thing right here, I'm going to be able to play N64 games on this thing. That's cool. Not only that, but we're going to be able to play them online, and if you pay for it, with an original controller. Whoa. So anyways, the games I'm about to talk about won't necessarily be in any particular order, but I am going to save my favorite pick for last. So, let's begin. Okay, so starting off, we have a relatively obvious pick with Mario Party 2. I played this game in the first entry with relatives on my father's side of the family a ton when I was really young, so it's a big point of nostalgia for me, but they are also just amazing games. In my opinion, I actually kinda think that this series peaked with the N64. I know that's probably controversial for you GameCube fans, and you have every right to tell me I'm wrong, but that's just how I feel. It's a bit of a bummer to me that we don't even know if Mario Party 2 or its sequel will ever come to the platform, since, you know, they are releasing an entire game that remakes some N64 boards. So yeah, we all understand why they won't be available anytime soon. And I'm incredibly excited for Mario Party Superstars, but here's the thing. While I think the remade boards look incredible, and I'm thrilled to see Mario Party 1 boards, since I don't see a world where that game ever comes to the service because of its past controversy, there is a little bit of the original charm missing from this remake, at least when it comes to Spaceland and Horrorland. The costumes that made Mario Party 2 so special to me are nowhere to be seen, and while this doesn't affect Superstars itself, I also really would have liked to have seen Western Land. In the end, these things don't really matter that much, and I'm going to buy Superstars Day 1 either way, but it's the main reason I'd like to see Mario Party 2 playable on the Switch in the future. Do I think it will happen? Probably? I obviously can't be 100% certain, but hey Nintendo, if you do give it to us, you should probably throw Mario Party 3 in as well. Next up, we have a rare game that I played a decent amount of as a kid, but as many would probably guess, I was absolutely terrible at it. Blast Corps. This is one that I don't think as many people would like to have. For one, because it's somewhat difficult, but also, when you think of rare games, this is probably not the first game that comes to your mind. The basic idea is that you use various vehicles and robots to destroy everything in sight in a timely manner. It's a weird premise, but I also enjoyed getting in and out of the different vehicles to explore, and of course, demolishing a bunch of buildings. We know that rare games are indeed possible, thanks to the reveal that Banjo-Kazooie is coming to the service at some point, but at the same time, I do have to wonder how far that will go. Sure, maybe we will get every N64 game Rare has ever made, including the more impossible ones like GoldenEye, but I won't hold my breath. If we were to get more though, I really hope Blast Corps makes the cut. I think it really is an underrated good time. Okay, so this one is a little bit weird and out there, and I seriously doubt it will ever happen, but I couldn't bring myself not to talk about it. Toy Story 2 Buzz Lightyear to the Rescue is one of the two first games I got when my parents bought me my own N64. I'm sure most of you are immediately like, no, why would you want this outdated licensed trash? But hear me out. The game has aged a bit poorly, but as a 3D platformer, I do still think it's fairly solid. There's all sorts of interesting puzzles, and some decently engaging exploration. Of course, it's especially fun if you enjoy the source material, but yeah, that's the thing. It is a licensed Disney game. Not only that, but the N64 version is considered inferior when compared to other versions, for various reasons. Probably the most of which being the fact that they had to use still images instead of cutscenes. There's also other games like this one, such as A Bug's Life, but I don't like that one as much. I'll admit this is a very self-indulgent nostalgia pick, and like I said before, it probably doesn't even have a sliver of a chance at happening. Even if it could happen, why would they choose to re-release a game based on a decades-old movie that isn't even close to relevant anymore? But hey, never say never. After all, Sora did get into Smash Bros. Is that... No! No! Oh. Glover was a game that I randomly saw in a used game store one day as like a 9-year-old, and for some reason I decided to buy it. I guess because the label looked colorful? I had no idea what this game even was, though I probably assumed it was a 3D platformer since so many N64 games were. I guess I was right, but this one is definitely a little weird. The basic idea is that you are a magic glove of a wizard who was turned to stone by an accident, and you have to guide these magic crystals that have been turned into rubber balls through the many different levels in order to save him. Also, your brother, I guess, the other glove, turns evil and tries to stop you throughout the game. Again, it's weird, but I'd be lying if I said I didn't find everything about it super charming. The idea is certainly original, and the levels have some cool themes. It is hard, and it's basically escort mission the game, but it is truly a fun time. Fun fact, the company who originally made this game went on to become Blitz Games, the creators of titles such as SpongeBob Creature from the Krusty Krab. If you want to learn more about them, I have a whole documentary video that I made a year or two ago. So, will this game come to the service? I actually think the answer is no. But I wanted to include it on the list anyways because I do really want it on my Switch. The thing about this game is there's actually a company that bought the rights to it, and its unreleased sequel, and they've previously announced they are porting it to Switch. So, hopefully that actually happens. Yeah, we would have to pay for it separately, but hey, at least it will be there. This is another game that probably doesn't have a big chance at making it, but it is, in my opinion, the best Star Wars game on the platform, and I'm surprised they haven't released an HD version of it like they did with Episode 1 Racer. Rogue Squadron sees you flying ships like X-Wings throughout different new and old Star Wars environments, shooting down TIE fighters and tripping AT-ATs. It's a surprisingly good flight sim for the hardware it's on, and like I said, I'm surprised it hasn't already been ported along with its sequels. I initially traded my original copy of Diddy Kong Racing to a neighborhood kid for this game, and I kind of regretted that choice for a long time, but I remember the night before I went to see The Force Awakens for the first time in theaters. I stayed up for hours playing through almost the entire length of this game, and it was a blast, and a great way to get in the mood for a brand new Star Wars movie after all those years. Sure, maybe the sequel trilogy didn't end up being my favorite, and yeah, I perhaps made a rash decision in getting rid of Diddy Kong Racing, but I wouldn't trade those memories for the world. And I did get another copy of Diddy Kong Racing a couple of years ago, so in the end, it worked out. But yeah. It's a Star Wars game, so, like Toy Story, its chances of making it into N64 Online seem slim. But I don't think it's as impossible. I guess we will just have to wait and see if any Disney games, or licensed games in general, somehow make the jump to Switch Online. Since we were just on the topic of Diddy Kong Racing, I absolutely hope we get this rare-made kart racer. This is another one of the two games I first got with my N64. But if I'm being honest, I personally prefer Mario Kart 64. This one is phenomenal in its own right though. Unlike Mario, this game has an explorable hub world, and a fully fledged adventure mode, complete with boss fights against a giant pig wizard. It's not your typical kart racer either, as your vehicle can transform into a plane or quote-unquote hovercraft for water races. In all these ways, I can see why people enjoy it more than Mario Kart, and I certainly don't hate it. Simply exploring the hub world to find hidden balloons took up hours of my time as a kid, and that soundtrack is one of the best I've ever heard. I think if any other Rare games were going to be made available, this is 100% the one with the best chance. Nintendo owns the titular character, and I doubt Rare or Microsoft would have any concerns with letting Nintendo use it. In fact, this is one I'd be willing to bet on. Mark my words, we will see Diddy, Timber, and the gang make a racing comeback eventually. Okay, so this is a game I've never actually played, but I'm including it because I really want to play it. It's actually 2 games technically. The N64 Castlevanias probably haven't aged incredibly well, but if anyone wanted to play them right now, they would have to shell out a pretty penny. If nothing else, adding these to the service would help preserve these titles and make them widely available. I've wanted to get into the Castlevania series for years. I love the concept of exploring a creepy Transylvanian castle and fighting a bunch of monsters along the way. It took me a long time to truly click with the games though. I only had access to the entries available on the NES and SNES classic consoles for a long time, and while I thought they were good for what they were, they never hooked me. It wasn't until I tried out the Metroid style entries in the series very recently on Switch that I truly fell in love with it. I also picked up the Anniversary Collection and have been giving the older titles another chance, and they are great in their own way. I still have to play through Symphony of the Night and Rondo of Blood on my PlayStation, but after that, I don't have any of the other types of these games, namely the N64 games, easily accessible. Hence why N64 Online could be the perfect opportunity. Sure, Konami will probably opt out of that route and maybe release another collection with these games included, but I kind of doubt many people would be willing to buy that one. Like I said, I'm not sure they have aged really well, but who knows. Whatever the case, I just hope I get the chance to play them, on my Switch or otherwise. Pokemon Stadium is not a game I grew up with. My cousins on my father's side did have it, but the one time I remember them trying to get me to play it, for some reason they couldn't get past the start screen. I'd say it was a broken controller, but the controller worked with other games we played, so I have no earthly clue why it didn't work. My father himself was one of the Pokemon is satanic crowd, so I wasn't allowed to have anything to do with the series growing up. And as such, I really had no interest in this game for a long time. When I was a teenager though, I finally decided to buy Pokemon X for myself, and I was instantly hooked. Of course, I started collecting the cards. I found someone selling a GBA and like way too many Pokemon games to list for just $75, and then somewhat recently, I got Stadium and Snap for free with rewards points from a used games website. I can definitely see that Stadium was a lot more novel and fun back in the days when seeing and battling a Pokemon in 3D hadn't been done before. I do still think it would be fun to have though, especially with the multiplayer aspect. I hear that this game and its sequel have some fun party games included, but I haven't tried them for myself yet. If true though, that really does just make this an even better inclusion for N64 Online, and I hope it comes at some point. I saved one of the best picks for second to last. The original Super Smash Bros. Is often considered to be more inferior, and I constantly hear people say it hasn't aged well. I don't agree with that sentiment at all. Yes, some of it is nostalgia, I will accept that, but this game is still a ton of fun, and probably the easiest in the entire series to simply pick up and play. There aren't a bajillion characters to choose from, and an overwhelming amount of items. You have some of the greats, some more obscure additions, and it's super easy to just pick a favorite and fight. Some people would strongly disagree, but I've never found one particular character to be better and more powerful than the other. The music and sound effects are fun and so nostalgic for me, not to mention that intro cutscene. I think that ultimately, this is the game that best exemplifies Sakurai's intent for the series as well. A fun party game to play with your friends and family. The single player content does leave a lot to be desired, but since games like these will have online multiplayer, that would obviously be the big draw of having this game on the service, and not playing alone. You may prefer Melee, or Ultimate, or even Brawl, but if nothing else, at least you could go back and see where it all started, with 12 characters, an evil hand, and a child's imagination. My last pick is likely going to confuse most people. After all, it is the game I want the most out of any of these, but I doubt that most people will really care about it. It's another extremely self-indulgent one, and has almost no chance of actually making it. But I can dream, dang it. Worms Armageddon on the N64. You probably haven't played this version of Worms Armageddon, seeing as it's almost always going for $200 or more. Yes, I own it. I played it a lot as a kid though, because my uncles happened to buy it when it first released. Out of a bargain bin, I might add. I thought it was amazing. It was the first game I ever played where I really had to think about what I was doing. The art and environments were so atmospheric to me, and the music even more so, which I actually recently learned was somehow randomly generated apparently. I think that is really cool, to be honest. And there are so many fun and sometimes hilarious weapons to choose from. I think that all in all, this is the perfect 4-player multiplayer game, and if it came to Switch somehow, I would lose my mind. There is, of course, a couple of problems. For one, the N64 version isn't really considered the best, and other people would probably rather have a port of one of the more modern iterations of Armageddon. I really hate the modern Armageddon though. It has none of the charm or atmosphere that the original has. The other big issue would be that some of the worms actually swear in the N64 version, which I never noticed as a kid, and it's also really bizarre since I don't think the PC port has any of that. I would think that if anything, the PC would have that, and not the N64. And of course, we don't really know if Nintendo is willing to put mature content on this service yet. So it is always possible. If we see Conquer at all, then all bets are off, I would say. Again, it probably won't happen, just like most of the games on this list. But at the end of the day, you gotta have something to hope for. And for me, that's Worms Armageddon 64 with online play. So that's 10 games that I feel particularly hopeful that we will see come to N64 Online. There were some honorable mentions such as Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, but because we already have a remake of the first 2 games on Switch, those don't seem very likely in my opinion. What games do you guys want to see? Let me know down in the comments. I'm planning on doing more Nintendo videos like this on top of my documentaries in the future, so if you want to see more videos like this one, be sure to subscribe. And like the video if you enjoy this type of content. I had a lot of fun making this video actually, so thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm planning on making more in the future, like I said. Can't wait. But yeah. I guess I'll see you all in the next one. Bye.